Welcome to the Taking the Lead podcast, where we empower people to be unstoppable. I'm Christina Hepner with my co-hosts Leslie Hoskins and Timothy Cunio. So it's going to be a busy start to the summer at Leader Dog. We have so many things happening.
It is getting busy, lots of things happening. One of the things that's exciting that I always look forward to every year is our professional seminar for orientation mobility specialists. So the people who work with people who are blind or visually impaired on those long white cane skills. It's a great event. We actually welcome O&Ms from all over the United States and Canada are welcome to join us on campus for about a day and a half of learning. And they get free continuing education credits. So as a certified orientation and mobility specialist, we do have to maintain continuing education for our certification. Yeah, so it's a great opportunity to get some credits. It's completely free and they get to stay on campus, which we know anytime we get people to campus is always so much fun.
Yes.
So we'll take them on a tour, but also just talk about, how do you help somebody who's interested in a guide dog? What are the skills that they need to prep and get ready? How to help them with their application. What are we looking for? How to take that video, all sorts of really good stuff. And then, by bringing in multiple O&Ms from different areas, we at Leader Dog, us as the O&M team, learned so much too about what's going on in the field, who's struggling with what, or, how can we help in different ways?
That's really cool. A really cool aspect to bring people from all over the country and make those connections, because we do serve people all over the country and internationally. So to be able to have other people to go to where they know that they can come to us with any questions. I love professional stuff and getting to know people who work in the same field and getting to know each other. So that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's really great. So not only like helping clients prep on the front end, but also, if you have a client who comes home with a guide dog, how can you help orient them to a new environment? Timothy, I'm sure that would have been really helpful for you going home, right?
Yeah, it would have been really great to have that. Yes.
Yeah. So, a lot of times O&M specialists are out working in the field and they work in an itinerant model and they're kind of by themselves and maybe don't have a lot of peer support. And so it is a great way to network and get to know other comms so that you can, pick up the phone if need be, or you can always call our team at Leader Dog and ask some questions and things like that. It's nice to kind of have that support.
So I'm curious, because I'm sure other people are, what does it take to be a certified orientation and mobility instructor?
Yeah, to be
or specialist, I'm sorry.
Yeah, a comms, you do have to complete a university program. And then you do have to do an internship with an organization or an agency to get in so many hours. And then also you have to sit for the certification exam through ACVREP. So that is probably the most intimidating part of it. But it's really important to be certified and then maintain that continuing education. So it's a little bit of a task, but totally worth it. I would say it's the best career out there. And we're very fortunate that we get to be one of those organizations that, helps others in their journey and helps others continue their education process, because new things keep happening. New things keep developing. Technology changes. The environment changes. All the reasons why we say our clients never graduate from O&M and that those brush-ups are all really important. It's the same for us as professionals. We need to go to conferences. We need to attend meetings. We need to know what is happening out in the field. So it's always just an event that I really look forward to.
What's cool about being a comms is you're the first step that somebody takes in their journey with blindness. And that is, that's cool that you guys start that and then the process, either to get a dog or not. It's just a rewarding job, I'm sure.
It is. And everybody's got very unique and individualized goals. And it's really fun to kind of step in and help them achieve that. And sometimes when we're working at Leader Dog, right, we're training in the same environment all the time, which you would think maybe could get a little boring, but it never does, because you're always working with a new client who always has different goals or different experiences or different visual conditions. And so it's always interesting and very rewarding. So we're really fortunate that this is a fun career and we get to be outdoors a lot of the time and help people be independent. So what more could you ask for? So good things. Yeah, all good things happening. The Pro Seminar, if anybody's interested, you can always find information on our website at leaderdog.org. We're going to jump into it because we've got another exciting guest today. Our guest is a Leader Dog client who is involved in many aspects of Leader Dog.
Yes, Stuart McGregor was working in education and is now an accessibility advocate currently working for Accessibility Standards Canada as a policy analyst, creating standards to make the world more accessible for everyone. He's a 3-time Paralympian and a Boston Marathon champion.
Stuart, it's great to have you on the podcast this morning. Let's start off. What's causing your visual impairment?
Well, good morning, everybody. Yes, my name is Stuart McGregor. I was born, or I suppose I was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa at the age of 12 years old. So I believe, Timothy, that might be a similar condition to what you have. So yes, I was diagnosed at 12 years old with retinitis pigmentosa. It was quite an ordeal at the time. Basically, growing up, I was born in Ottawa, Canada, in a house filled with 3 brothers, so a very busy house.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, my poor mom. Yeah, but basically we're a regular household. Our house was, very active house, very athletic house, very sort of adventurous household as well. I was a pretty typical Canadian boy. I played hockey in the winter, baseball in the summer, and played all the school sports and whatnot. And, as I got a little bit older and I was growing up, I started to realize that my vision was changing, and I felt like all of a sudden I wasn't able to see quite as well as I normally could, particularly in the dark and dim lighting situations. And it started to become like very noticeable. And, being a somewhat shy and introverted kid, I didn't really say anything for quite a long time. And, very strangely, just one day, my father had said, well, he had to go into the eye doctor and he wanted to get his eyes tested and glasses adjusted. So I just very casually said, well, I think I'm not seeing so great. I think maybe I need glasses. So is it okay if I sort of tag along with you? And what was to be a very routine checkup ended up being a massive awakening. So I was actually sent to the Eye Institute in Ottawa, which is a world-renowned facility, and we're very fortunate to have it in our city. But I was just going in for somewhat of a checkup, and that turned into about a 5 or 6 hour ordeal where I had literally every test you can imagine: a visual acuity test, a visual field test, a colorblind test, and just being 12 years old, it was a little bit like, what's going on here? I thought this was just going to be a regular thing. And then, kind of a bombshell was dropped on my poor parents that day that, your son is legally blind and very legally blind. Like he's got, I think at that time I probably had somewhere around 15 degrees of peripheral vision left. And, it almost was somewhat undetectable in a sense because I just managed so well and I never said anything. And, pretty good athlete as a kid and that kind of thing. So it didn't really show itself except in the dim and dark situations. So it was almost immediately that day at the Eye Institute, from going from, a fully sighted, regular kid to this legally blind child that all of a sudden should get orientation mobility training and a guide dog right away and connected with our Canadian National Institute for the Blind. And it was just such a shock, for my poor parents. And I remember my mom being very protective and not wanting the doctor really to tell me all that. So she, the doctor told my parents, and my mom sort of delivered the news sort of a lot softer, I suppose. But it was a big day for our house for sure.
Absolutely. And it's crazy, too, that had your dad not been going to the eye doctor, when you would have maybe said something or had that opportunity to go get an evaluation. So once you were diagnosed, right, and kind of maybe finding some answers a little bit to what you were experiencing, how did that then impact you? Because as you said, you're a very athletic person, young child. Did your athletics change in any way? Did you have to make adaptations, or what happened in that sense?
Yes. I mean, it did happen gradually over time. At the age, about 12, 13 years old, I was still playing hockey at a fairly high level. I was playing competitive hockey. And believe it or not, I was the goalie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So as you can imagine, someone with like very little peripheral vision, my head was on a swivel like crazy.
Yeah.
So I just back and forth. But anyway, that obviously that ended at some point and I stopped playing that. But I just kept doing things like despite my vision limitations, I still did everything. I still played all the sports that my brothers played and was involved in everything. In fact, even in high school, grade 9 and 10, I still played on the high school basketball team, which was tough. It's, as the boys get bigger and stronger and the screens are coming faster at you, like I was a little bit exposed that way, but I still was able to play and just do the best I could despite my vision.
Mm-hmm.
However, I was always a good runner. Like that was always my thing.
Yeah.
And that was always what I was best at. And that's sort of what I kept going with. Having really tight tunnel vision, I still was able to, see the lines on the track and kind of, that never was difficult for me. The only time it became difficult was in a very crowded race. And that did become a factor as I got older and older. But just all that to say, I didn't act as if I was a legally blind kid. Like nobody really knew.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the hardest days of my life was I believe I was grade 9 and I just won all the city meets for track and field. In fact, I won 3 races for my region, and then I won the 3 races for the city. I was kind of like this undefeated kid, and I was going into provincials as one of the best in the province and in the country. And then I had an interview, and I felt really special as a kid. The first time I was really getting interviewed, and it was a big story that this boy's he's won all these races, blah blah blah. And, he felt really important. Then all of a sudden the next day, the article was posted and the headline is something like legally blind runner runs to victory or something like that. And that I was like outed, and it was like, it was really, really tough. Like I said, I was a really shy sort of introverted kid. I told the odd person about my eye condition and whatnot, but I wasn't really out with it, and that just was devastating to me. I remember it being posted in my high school, and I remember just ripping it off the wall. I was so mad, and I was so mad that somebody could just take that and just decide to write something about me without even asking me about it in the interview and stuff. So anyway, just like that, I'm known as this legally blind runner and not just a great athlete anymore. It's like I'm a blind runner, not a able-bodied runner. So that was tough, and that was sort of my introduction. A lot of people found out about my eye condition that way, and then it just sort of went from there. So I continued with athletics, and I continued running as an able-bodied runner my whole life. Competed at the national level as an able-bodied quote-unquote runner.
Yeah.
And then honestly, like it was again my fantastic mom. She just behind my back, she looks into parasport and like the Paralympic team, and this is 1995 or so, and really back then, like the Paralympics were not nearly as big as they are now. Like they weren't as well known. I never even heard of it, and all of a sudden, my mom reached out to the national coach saying, "Look, I have this son. Like he's legally blind. I don't know what the qualifications are for parasport and whatnot, but this is what he can do on the track. These are his times. Are you interested in him?" And honestly, within like weeks, I was flown out to Arizona for a training camp, and I was with some of the best, Paralympians and also Olympians in the world. And just like that, like a few weeks later, my times that I'd been running against able-bodied were now good enough to run on the Paris circuit, and I just like that I made the 1996 Paralympic Games. And
Wow,
that's incredible.
Yeah, like it was so crazy. And then I had this life of Paralympic sport after that.
Yeah.
The rest is history, I suppose. But
that is amazing.
Yeah.
And, you know, the fact that your mom went behind your back, you know, sometimes our moms do that. And then
they do that.
But they always mean the best. And look at it, turned into you being a 3-time, correct? Paralympian?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I ran 3 times.
So doing that, and then, you know, in your bio, we also said you're a Boston Marathon champion. So tell us about that journey as well.
Yeah, so I went through, there's a little bit of a hiccup along the way. So I ran my 3 Paralympics, and so I ran my 3rd one in Athens in 2004. And then,
that's so cool. You say that so casually.
I'm just
like no big deal.
Athens,
that was the last one. Like,
Timothy's like, oh, you were in Georgia?
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
Well, truthfully, like the Canadians, we do come down to the States quite a bit. So we do love your beautiful country. I was San Diego and Florida and North and South Carolina all the time for running. And we love your country, especially during February and January where it's freezing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
But after my 3rd Paralympics, it was 2005. I was actually, believe it or not, I was just coming into my prime at that point, and I was about 24 years old. And really tragically, I was out on a training run, and I was hit by a car.
Oh, wow.
And like it wasn't a minor hit, like I was really hit, and it just absolutely shattered my tibia and fibula, and to the point where I had 5 surgeries on it. Like it wasn't a minor, like it was huge. Like it just like lots of rods and pins, and you know, I don't need to go through all the details, but it took a lot of surgeries to put my leg back together. So I never really got back to my international form of what I once was and where I was going with it, believe it or not. And so that was tough. And at the same time too, I was blessed with, you know, a few kids coming along the way, and my wife and kids. So now I have 3 kids, and my kids were starting to grow, and they were starting to become kind of athletes as in their own sense. So, you know, I really loved, you know, watching my son grow up and become a real good hockey player and things like that. So, you know, I sort of gave up running completely for a while. And then after a while, you know, as I say, my kids did grow, and I really did miss it. So I wanted to just kind of come back to running, but not in the same capacity and not in the same competitiveness, I suppose. So I started running, I started training again, just on my own without going to practice, but just sort of marathon training on my own. And yeah, I took a few years at it, and I ran the Ottawa Marathon and did fairly well. And then I qualified for Boston, and yeah.
And then what?
Yeah, I know. I like you're saying this so casually, like, oh, you know, I did it for fun, and I won the Boston Marathon.
Yeah.
There's actually a pretty crazy story that happened in the Boston Marathon. I one of my very best friends, his name is Matt, and he's a firefighter. Actually, just to explain it a little bit, like, you know, to run it at the pace that I'm running, it requires a lot of help, you know, from guides and whatnot. So I actually had 2 guides. I had one guide to run the first half and one guide to run the second half, just to be able to manage. But my good friend Matt, who's a firefighter and a very accomplished runner in his own right, he was guiding me, and he'd just taken over at the halfway point. So let me think, so 13 miles. I'm trying to think kilometers and miles. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, no, it's necessary.
So he took over, and it was a really funny situation. Like, it's funny, not funny, but so we're running, and the Boston Marathon is it's crazy. There's so many great runners that can run really fast. So a lot of regular marathons, there's only a handful that can sort of run at the pace that we were running, but here there's hundreds and thousands. And so it's never like not busy. So as someone with tunnel vision, like, you really rely on that guide to sort of get you through and to see what you're not seeing, and all the people in front of you and the traffic and the water stations and all that. Anyway, in my little sliver of vision, we were running just after the halfway point. He'd just taken over, and a water bottle just happened to go right in front of us. And the amazing thing is my little sliver of vision, I was the one that saw it. But it was, I might have heard it. I'm not sure. Anyway, my poor guide, who's a firefighter, he stepped right on it and he just rolled his ankle like you wouldn't believe. And he was done. And so like, well, what am I going to do here? So he couldn't keep going. So I just ran, and all I could do was, maybe Timothy, as you know, you just focus in on one thing, and you just literally use your tunnel vision and do the best. It was tough.
Oh my God.
So what happened was I probably ran about 5 miles without him, or maybe not quite that much, but quite a while. And I'm struggling, but I'm doing the best. And the really cool thing was a lot of people around me knew that I was blind and saw what happened. And so many people offered to help. I'm just like, no, you go ahead. Like, you run your race. I'll manage, no problem. And don't I hear, about 45 minutes later or something like that, my poor guy that rolled his ankle terribly, found his way back to me and ran through the pain. His ankle's like a grapefruit, and just once he realized that he didn't break a bone, he just sort of ran through.
Oh
terribly
my gosh.
Injured ankle. It was just unbelievable. So anyway, all that to say, we managed through together, and we found out later that we were the champions for the visually impaired category, and that was pretty special. So
that's pretty amazing, because I see what my eyesight looks right now, and there's no way I could run. I have retired from running.
Oh yeah, it's not easy.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Just the kindness of humans, though, right?
Yeah.
Like people around you being willing to like step back and help or do whatever, and then your guide. Oh my gosh, to be able to run on an ankle. That's awesome.
What a champ.
Yeah.
I know. It was a true team event. Like, it was really like, there are guide runners at the Paralympics. It's a true team sport. It really is.
Oh
so you can't do it without them. And it's just, they're unbelievable athletes.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your athletic accomplishments. I do want to kind of move on just a little bit, because we have so many topics here to talk about. But I want to talk about your Leader Dog experience. So can you give us just a brief how you found Leader Dog and got started with us? And then I want to talk about all the things you're currently involved in too.
Yeah, very much the same. Like, I'm talking to you about these odd experiences that happen, but I was just on the retinitis pigmentosa Facebook page, and one day I happened to notice one person talking about O&M and the experience that they had. And, it's something, obviously, I think it's something that resonated with me. I knew that, I probably had wasted a lot of time just not getting this training, and I knew I needed it. I knew that a lot of, I was avoiding certain situations. Like, I was avoiding some things that were just really difficult to do, and wondering, am I going to make it with my vision? Is this going to be something that I'm going to feel nervous about? And anyway, so I was kind of thinking about it, and I just happened to see on the Facebook page people talking about O&M. And then somebody just mentioned Leader Dogs for the Blind on there. And just like that, I just like, well, here we go. So I just emailed client services, I believe, and just asked a lot of questions, and they answered all of them like immediately. It was just amazing to get the feedback right away, all the questions that I asked. And then, I said, well, here are the two sort of caveats. I said, well, this is all sounding great, but, the one thing is that I'm Canadian, so this probably doesn't apply to me, does it? And they said, oh, yes, it does. We absolutely cater to Canadians. We'd love to have you, that kind of thing. And like, wow, okay. Like, and then the last one was, well, this just sounds too good to be true. It's going to be a week. It's a week away, but how much is this going to cost? And, oh, it's free. Whoa. I couldn't believe everything that they were saying. And it was just like, it sounded too good to be true. And I still think of it as too good to be true. Like, even to this day, it's really too good to be true. All the things that you learn and you take away, and, coming away with such confidence and new skills. And it's just like such a blessing to my life. Like, yeah.
And so you came and you spent a week, doing the O&M training, right? With Mr. Lin, I believe.
That's correct. Yeah.
Who I'm sure
they chose well when they put me with Lin, because I think it was, well, you have your intro meeting with this person, and we just talked about our lifestyles, and I talked to him about my active lifestyle, and he's a very active person as well. And I think it was day 2. He asks me to are you up for going on a 5-mile walk tomorrow? I have this loop that we like to do, or I like to do. And so I'm kind of like, honestly, a little bit arrogant. Like I'm thinking, okay, yeah, sure. Like there's no way we're going on a 5-mile walk. Like I said, like I'm a marathon runner. Like I know distance, I know time. This is going to take, this amount of time. There's no way that this older guy's going to be able to do that. I knew he looked fit, but I'm like, there's no way it's this long.
Yeah.
And sure enough, yeah, we walked forever that day. So we did this massive square loop, and we talked the whole time, and we learned so much. And he brought me through the mall. He brought me through this auditorium. He brought me through revolving doorways. He brought me up and down stairs. Every last thing you can imagine on the first real session together. I was so impressed. And, we just got to talk and learn, and he figured me out. And, I like from learning from him, he just hit me exactly how I needed to be hit, because, I'm not that young anymore, but, in my blindness and my, dealing with it, I kind of was, I was like young in the sense. And I just like so many people that are probably listening right now, it's just like, you just hate to get to that point, and it sort of happens before you know it. And you realize, man, I'm not doing a lot of things that I should be doing, I want to do, only because I'm living with this condition, and my life is so hard because I can't do anything by myself. And so I got into these conversations with Lynn, and I said to him, Lynn, I've learned so much already from you. Like, I can't thank you enough. I feel so much better. I said, but I know, like, the hardest thing for me is going to be going home back to Ottawa and actually just using this cane. And his response was just like 100% what I needed to hear at that moment. He just says, well, what do you mean? He says, well, do people at home not know that you have a visual impairment? Like, the people around you, do they not know? I'm like, well, yeah, they do know. Like, people that know me, of course, they know I have a visual impairment, and, through my sport and the media, people know that I'm legally blind. I'm like, well, so what's going to happen is you're going to go home, you're going to have your cane with you, people are going to see it, and they're going to be like, and they'll be like, yeah, that makes sense. And that's it. And then he said, like, what's better? Like, for people to have that momentary, like, you have that momentary conversation with people, they notice quickly. Like, what's worse? Like, do you want to keep walking around, bumping your head, bumping your shins, not feeling safe, not feeling calm, or would you rather have that? And he just talked to me like that. Like I was the student, he was the teacher. And like, I said, you're 100% right.
Yeah.
And like, as I've come home, and that's exactly what happened. Oh, the other thing that he said is, when you go home, you do not leave your house without it. It's like, no matter how small a trip it is, if you're just going for the mail, you bring it with you, because this is you now. And that's really what made the biggest difference, because, it'd be easy to kind of take it with you, not take it with you, and just sort of get in that zone of, well, do I need it or not? But the times that I don't use it is the times I often need it most, right? And really what it does is it normalizes it. For people to see me with the cane all the time, and for me to use it all the time, I just feel so much safer, so much more at ease. And it's just me now, and it's fine. Like, I was just dreading it for so long, just using this white cane, but now it's just giving me this sense of peace and calmness. And to the point where, you meet so many new people in your life. Now, when you meet them for the first time, it's not like, well, they just see me with the cane, and that's just me now. And that's what I was avoiding for so long. And now it's something that I've grown to love and really appreciate, because it's just such an extension of who I am, and it just helps me so much.
It sounds like our stories are similar. You got to get to the point where you've got to accept your blindness and your at that moment, your capabilities, and you've got to go get that training. But you've got to take that first step. And that's the hardest thing to do, is take that first step to improve your life.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I just think I just wish I'd done this 15 years ago. A lot of time was wasted. And for the people that are listening right now, I just would highly recommend not waiting. Just, it's your life. And don't let time go by without just taking care of yourself. This will make you so much more at ease. I promise you. I can't tell you the amount of times where I've received help when needed, or just using the cane, just the space that it opens up, as a person who uses public transit and travels to restaurants and, just are in crowded environments or whatnot, it just opens that little bit of space and gives you that brief amount of room that you need to be comfortable and or ask the question for help if you need to. And it's so much simpler than before when you're just struggling with people not really understanding why you're having trouble in certain situations.
I appreciate all of that. That was fantastic. And I'm so happy that you've had that experience and it's been such a positive experience for you. And yes, somehow these teaming ups, the matches that we make with O&M specialists and clients sometimes really are just, I don't know how to even say it. Like, it's just meant to be, right? You're with the right person. Like Timothy and I were matched together and it's been a beautiful relationship and we accomplished so much. And same thing with you and Lynn. Lynn is a fantastic instructor and he really is hit the ground running kind of guy and tell you how it is. And it sounds like that's exactly what you needed at that time. So I'm so happy that worked out. We do have to kind of wrap it up here, but Stuart, I'm thinking we need a part 2 episode because we did not even get to a lot of the things on our list here today. So we're going to wrap this one up. I want to thank you for joining us, but we're going to work on scheduling part 2 to come back and discuss all those other items.
Wow. Thank you so much. I don't usually talk very much, maybe because I can't see any faces right now, but
no, it's been fantastic.
It's such a pleasure being on the podcast. Thank you so much for all of your time. And just for people that are thinking about Leader Dog, honestly, just get to their website and start talking to client services. It'll change your life.
And I want to thank Leslie because she didn't take me on the 5-mile walk.
Remember, I was 8 months pregnant or however many months pregnant at that time too.
That's right.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you so much, Stuart. And thank you so much to our listeners for listening to the Taking the Lead podcast. I'm Leslie Hoskins with hosts Timothy Cunio and Christina Hepner. We hope you enjoyed hearing part 1, we'll say, of Stuart and his accomplishments. And please do join us next time as we continue to dive into the world of blindness.
Yes, and if you'd like to learn more about applying to our free services at Leader Dog, you can head to leaderdog.org or call us at 888-777-5332. And don't forget, you can reach us at takingthelead@leaderdog.org with any questions or ideas. If you like today's podcast, make sure to hit subscribe and check us out wherever podcasts stream.